Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rosenthal Reviews. Today we're talking about Joker, Folie. Not quite sure those Duolingo lessons are working out for me. I apologise. So now that I've seen the movie, let's have a chat about it. I'm going to put a big spoiler warning here. If you have not seen Joker, Folie, I need to stop that because it's going to get really annoying. If you have not seen Joker 2, you might want to save this video and come back to it later because I will be talking about specific plot points and stuff that happens in the film. You want to go see it for yourself. Also, that's if you want to see this movie, because the internet kind of hates this one, folks. So let's go back to 2019. The first Joker comes out. People absolutely love this movie, or they pretty much hate it. I was one of those weird people that fell somewhere in the middle. I liked the film. I enjoyed this character study, this social commentary on mental illness and how society ignores it. But it wasn't this 10 out of 10 perfect film for me. Funnily enough, I actually think the first movie, and this one to be honest, should just be called Arthur. Everybody that you meet has an original point of... Because to me, the Joker is somebody that is menacing, intimidating, intelligent, and Arthur doesn't quite have that in these movies. To me, these films are a study of mental illness and isolation. They are not an origin story for the Joker. The Joker, to me, so far, is Heath Ledger. So I stick a razor in my mouth and do this to myself. Got a little fight in you. I like that. Then you're gonna love me. Christian Bale, Batman, can't go wrong. So with all of that said, and with me going into this film with this expectation that this is going to be a character study of Arthur, I shouldn't expect too much Joker. I went into the film pretty level-headed. I wasn't expecting a masterpiece. I just went in expecting, hopefully, what would be a good character study. And because of that, I actually can't believe I'm going to say this. I kind of like this movie. Please don't kill me, internet. I'm sorry. To be clear, this is not the best movie to ever grace this earth. I'm just saying I liked it. There are some stuff that I didn't like about it, but overall, it's not that bad. Let's break it down. Let's start with Mr. Phoenix. He does a fantastic job in this film. Is he as good as he was in Joker? I need to see it again, but he, in my opinion, comes very, very close. Like, he does a fantastic job in this film, portraying somebody that, to me, isn't the Joker, but his portrayal of Arthur, a man that has a lot of repressed trauma, that manifests itself in emotions that portray comedy and aggression. He does a fantastic job playing that character. And actually one of my favourite scenes in the movie is that one that you see in the trailer when Harley and Joker, they are talking to each other in prison and Joaquin lines his face up with the lipstick and is like, that one. The acting that Joaquin does there, it's very subtle. It's not obvious at all. But the way he uses his eyes to show his infatuation with the character of Quinn, despite the fact that she is lying to her. It's like when you see a new mate in love and you're like, okay, he's in love. And you can just see it in the eyes. Joaquin does that perfectly. Lady Gaga does a good job here. She portrays Harley Quinn. They call her Lee Quinn, I think, in the film. I don't know, again, why the film does that. I believe her infatuation with the Joker persona. And by the end of the movie, as we find out, and we'll touch on later on in this review, we find out that basically Harley's been manipulating Joker this whole time. And by the end of it, I didn't end up liking Harley's character, which I think to me was the point. We're not supposed to like her. So credit to her performance and the writing where it's due. The one frustrating thing here was that I think there was supposed to be more Harley footage in this final cut of the film. There's a lot of backstory which I think we're missing. There's reasoning that I would have liked to have seen as to why her character is acting the way that she is. But we don't get to see that. And I think for me that hurts the film and unfortunately does affect the character of Lee. So overall, I don't think that was a good thing for the film. Okay, let's touch on what is a very controversial part of this film, and that's the musical numbers. Going into this film, knowing about the musical numbers, for me, I was very intrigued. And to me, it made sense. If you look at the first Joker movie with Arthur, a lot of the times he does look like he's in this musical world. He's constantly dancing. And to me, singing would make sense. It's the next step. So, to me, is this movie a musical? Yeah, I guess it is. Is it some big, loud ensemble with music in your face constantly? No, it's not. It's very subtle what they do here. A lot of the music is almost spoken. It's mumbled within scenes that actually take place in the film. You don't go off to this huge musical number with a bunch of dancers everywhere. A lot of it is very compact, very isolated within the film itself. And for me, I like that. Again, Joker, to me, is a character study, in this film at least. And having these big ensembles would just take away from the character that we are trying to focus on. So yes, as we'll get into in a second, a lot of the time I didn't appreciate the musical numbers. But the ones that worked stayed with the character of the Joker and helped to emphasize the feelings that he was feeling in that moment. And because of that, only some of the musical numbers did add to the film. Two examples for me which I think show this really well. Number one, Gonna Build a Mountain, I think Lady Gaga sung it by herself. There is this storyline throughout the film that basically Joker and Harley, they're going to run away together and build a mountain. When we go to Lady Gaga singing that particular number, to me it adds to the potential euphoria that Arthur's character would feel should that happen. And as we find out at the end of the film, it doesn't. But that musical number helps to emphasize that emotion for me of euphoria for Arthur should he get to run away together with Harley. And the other musical number which I really liked, one we've touched on already, is I think it's Close to You. And that's the scene in the mirror in the prison, and then Arthur lines up his face with a smile. That scene and that musical number really worked for me because, again, Gaga is singing this song and the focus is pretty much on Joaquin, and you are just seeing him fall in love with this woman very dangerously because he shouldn't be falling in love with her because she's telling him lies. But again, it helps to emphasize for me the emotion that Arthur is feeling in that moment. Those are two musical numbers which for me, I thought worked. Oh, so Rosie, what were the rest of the musical numbers like? Yeah. Do the rest of the musical numbers need to be in this film? Alright, fine, there's probably a few more that would add to the plot and story. The majority of them, they do hold up the film. You are sitting there in the cinema, again, because of the subtlety and the grounded nature of these musical numbers. There's not much going on in front of you. So when most of them come on and they're not really adding to the plot or the character or the story, you are kind of just sitting there like, is this gonna end soon? No? Okay, well, I guess we'll carry on sitting here. This film would have been much better if it wasn't this full-blown musical, and they didn't label it a musical before the film came out. They should have cut around 70 to 80% of the musical numbers, left a few in, the more grounded, isolated ones, and that would have been this nice addition for viewers going into the film. Okay, let's take a look at the plot and the writing, because I think this is a pretty divisive point of this movie. So this film follows the aftermath of the first Joker, and we start off with Arthur in Arkham Asylum. And the first act pretty much takes place here. And that first act, I enjoyed. The atmosphere, the vibe of Arkham, it was perfect. The design of it was grotty, it was dark, it was depressing. It was great to see the character of Arthur complete his first act within that setting. And as we move throughout the act, we meet Arthur's lawyer, I think portrayed by Catherine Keener. And she introduces this interesting plot element where actually she is trying to convince Arthur that the reason he did those murders basically in the first film is because he has multiple personality disorder. And in essence, this persona of Joker was created to protect Arthur. And I like that element of the movie. I liked how we are basically questioning to what point is somebody so mentally ill that they can't be blamed for basically the crimes that they've committed? That was quite an interesting question that the film posed for me. So we're about 45 minutes into the film. We're still in Arkham. I'm loving it. And then we get to the trial. We move to this courtroom basically setting where Arthur is put on trial for the crimes that he committed in the first film. And the whole of the second act basically takes place here. And the movie starts to lose me just a bit. Now, don't get me wrong, there are parts that I liked about this second act. Funnily enough, I actually thought this movie was a tad funnier. I know that it's not really supposed to be a funny movie, but again, looking at the character of Arthur, I quite liked how he portrayed this childlike innocence to him when he sat at the bench with his lawyer and he's just like writing down notes like, can you get Quinn a better seat next time? I thought that was kind of funny. Like, just me? No, okay, I've probably got bad humour then. Point being, at this point in the film, I am still enjoying the romance between Lee and Joker. I think it's quite charming in a way, and those scenes do add something to me for the movie. There is also probably what is the best scene in this film that takes place in this courtroom setting, and that is when Arthur basically for the first time embodies his Joker persona and represents himself at trial with Gary Puddles. So, Gary Puddles was the man that witnessed Joker commit one of his murders in the first film. And seeing Joker take on this southern drawl accent and represent himself at trial was highly entertaining. But the best part about that is when I think Gary Puddles basically just starts saying, "You were the only one that was nice to me. Why were you doing this to me?" And it hits Arthur, like it just suddenly clicks and he's like, I'm not supposed to be this person. This is somebody that was nice to me. I was supposed to be helping him, but I've done the complete opposite. One final thing I need to touch on about this film, and something that I should have touched on earlier, is how good the visuals look. And in particular, in the second act, there is one shot where it's part of a musical number and you see Joker like blow his brains out. It was beautiful. I don't know if I should be describing that as beautiful. So it goes without saying, another part of the second act, which I loved, was the cinematography. Rosie, what else did you like about the second act? Yeah. It's, the whole courtroom thing and the trial of Joker, it's fine. Like, it's okay. It's just annoying because there's so much potential there. But really, if you look at it, nothing actually happens. Like, we get all these returning characters come back from Joker 1, and nothing happens. Like, there's no meat to this story. We even got Harvey Dent portraying the opposing lawyer against Joker. And, like, no discredit to the actor. He did a great job with what he was given. But why is he in this film? Like, there's nothing to his character. He's just there. And that's what the second act feels like. It's there, it's filler. We're just like running up this time so we can get to the ending. And this is where we talk about that ending because, whew, it's a divisive one. So, we're in the courthouse. Big explosion. Bah, 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 bah. Arthur escapes. A couple of his followers help him. He runs away, abandons them, and goes to find Lee. Finds her. They have this chat, and Lee's like, I was just sold on the delusion. You're not really the Joker. You abandoned me because of your abandonment of the delusion. This is over. And to be fair, you do feel for Arthur. Now, towards the end of this conversation between the two characters, I was pretty convinced that at this point, Lee was actually going to kill the Joker. And instead, we have one of these random prisoners also in Arkham throughout the film. I think we see him a couple of times, but he's not like a major character. Joker, Arthur, he gets taken away, and this prisoner stops him. He's like, hey, just wait a second. Stabs him a few times in the gut. Looks freaking painful. And we see Arthur lay there, bleeding out. He's dying. It's sad. And in the background, we see this prisoner who's just committed this murder. It looks like he is in the background, basically slicing up his own face. In essence, becoming the Joker. By the way, at this point, Arthur, he's been called out because he's got a visitor. And I'm intrigued to know because I've got no idea. I'd assume that it was Harley. But then Arthur dies. So it makes me think that the security guard was in on the murder. Do you have any ideas? If so, let me know down below because I don't. So, to me, this ending, as it stands, I personally didn't like it. I thought it was too clever. It looked like they were trying to pull off some kind of symbolism and all that. I mean, it was fine, but I think there were better ways that this film could have ended. Number one, these films to me are a deep character study of what mental illness does to somebody and the wider impact of society. So seeing Arthur basically just live out his days in Arkham Asylum without getting the help he needs, To me, that would have been, number one, a better and more tragic ending. Number two, Harley kills the Joker. She is basically, I don't want to go as far as to call her an antagonist, but she is basically an antagonist throughout this film. And it just would have made so much more sense if they were on the stairs together. And we basically know that Arthur feels betrayed. He feels betrayed by Lee. She shouldn't have done what she should have done. But I think in her own messed up way, Lee feels betrayed by Arthur because he dropped the delusion, because he dropped the Joker. And because of that, I thought she would have felt equally as betrayed and would have killed him. So, in my opinion, those are two better ways which I think this film should have ended. Or, bonus round, third way this ends. These two films should have been called Arthur. If you remove the clown and Joker elements from this film and kind of largely keep the plot as is for both of them, really, again, you are coming back to this character of Arthur. You're not looking at the character of Joker, you are looking at the character of Arthur. We would have gone throughout both films without this large, grandiose expectation of what the Joker means to us and having these expectations for these films, and instead gone in just expecting a great character study. And throughout the films actually thinking, oh, okay, this is kind of like another character I know. And as we progress throughout the second film, we get to that ending. And at the end, when we see Arthur, not the Joker, we see Arthur die. And then we look in the background and see this guy slicing up his face. And it's like, oh shit, this whole time we've been watching a Joker ideology origin story. Kind of like what they did in Split. Remember at the end of that film, we're looking at Kevin Wendell Crumb's character. We see his story, and then at the end you see Bruce Willis, and it's like, oh shit, this is part of that unbreakable universe. That is what this film should have done. It should have focused on this commentary of social injustice and mental health, and then had that Joker reveal for the fans. I think that would have been epic. There's probably financial concerns in terms of whether these films would have made as much money without the Joker brand name. But if we're speaking purely for the fans, to me, that would have been my preferred ending for this film. On the Rosenthal review ranking, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I liked it more than I didn't like it. On the entertainment echelon, it's a tough one. I'm going to give this a 5, split right down the middle. I think if you are a fan of Joker, if you are a fan of the first film, you should still go see this in the cinema or even on streaming and make your mind up for yourself as to whether you like this film. And on the feeling factor, I'm going to give this a sad. Overall, you feel sad for the character of Arthur and how it ends for him. And unfortunately, you overall feel sad because this film could have been so much more. I'm pretty sure most people aren't going to like me for giving it a 6, but that's fine. We'll run with it. What did you think of Joker, Folie à Deux? I'm running with that as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, if you're new around here, please subscribe for more reactions and reflections, and I'll speak to you all very soon.